is it about children Catholic bishops don't like, preborn or born? They don't really seem to give a crap about them. And if you're a child, the last place you want to be is between a bishop and a buck. But Judgment Day is now barreling along for the U.S. Catholic bishops and their unethical dealings in the illegal immigration area. A little piece of breaking news here. We'll be visiting it later in the show as well. But J.D. Vance, the sitting vice president of the United States, said, quote, "I think the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops has frankly not been a good partner in common sense immigration enforcement that the American people voted for. And I hope, again, as a devout Catholic, that they'll do better." Again, sitting vice president of the United States. I got to tell you, we here at Souls and Liberty, Church Militant, all that, man, are we feeling vindicated in this? Anyway, there are really sort of two judgment days for the bishops as they're staring down the barrel of here on earth and, most importantly, in front of the Supreme Shepherd. So over the last 4 years, for example, the bishops have raked in almost, get your calculator out, $2.5 billion in taxpayer money from the Biden administration. It's a vast network the Bishops' National Conference set up, beginning all the way back in 1969 with the Catholic Campaign for Human Development. Supposedly a one-time collection from the bishops asked for Catholics to pitch in and fight poverty. It's supposed to be a one-time thing. By the way, only after social and moral corruption had been discovered did they stick the word Catholic in front of it. Originally, it was just called the Campaign for Human Development. They thought, hey, yeah, we own that word Catholic, so let's stick it in front of it and give it an air of respectability, which it never really has had. But that was only the first foray into a money grab in the name of social justice. After the corrupt hierarchy figured out the cash cow they were sitting on, they quickly expanded their efforts, multiplied them, doubled, tripled them all over the place. Soon, Catholic Charities, not really Catholic and questionably charitable, was soon petitioning for and receiving federal, and here's an important point, state and local government contracts for at first millions, then tens of millions, and ultimately billions of dollars. A large portion of these funds were directed at bringing in millions of illegal immigrants and then funneling them all over the country. Again, millions and millions of them. The government handouts to hundreds of bishops' agencies, different agencies, remember, not just federal. They're all over the place. They eventually got so large that the administrative costs were pocketed. Because if you're going to do the will of a bureaucracy, you got to make your own bureaucracy to do it. And the bishops did just that. Fully half of the U.S. Bishops' Conference budget almost every year comes from government handouts, government money, which is to say your money. Over the past 4 years in particular, Catholic Charities got the nickname the Illegal Immigrant Travel Agency because of their work at moving millions and millions and millions of illegals all over the country, transportation, hotel, food, clothing, medical, and so on. And while all of that would certainly cost money, so would the staffing of it. Thousands of paid employees, and of course the accompanying bureaucratic bloat of administration, payroll, human resources, employee expense reimbursement, accounting, office expenses, overhead, and so forth. All of it would make the church be so relevant. All the while, the bishops and their corpulent corporation of charity was dead silent on the human cost of helping smuggle in, transport, and stash millions of illegals. And what are those human costs? Child sex trafficking, slavery, rape, child prostitution, drug transport, deaths across the nation of U.S. citizens killed because of those drugs, and many of them young people. The last toll of just children was about 1/3 of a million children that no one knew where they were, much less how to locate them. At least that's what we were told. Biden and his fellow communists kept deadly silent about them. So, of course, the bishops figured if they wanted to stay on board that gravy train, they better keep their pie holes shut as well. So they did. Well, wouldn't you know it? As things turned out, this first week of Trump 2.0, as Catholic Tom Homan led the charge seizing and deporting thousands of criminal illegals, tens of thousands, 80,000 of those 300,000 missing children were found in 1 week. 1 week of raids scattered across the country. In just 1 week, 80,000 missing children who'd been smuggled in as unwitting drug mules and sex commodities, all of a sudden discovered. Again, in 1 week.
Now, the second wave that Tom Home and the borders are for Trump has told me about in all of this will focus on those missing children, hundreds of thousands of them that we know. And that number has started to already come down, Emily, from 300,000. So they've found about 75 to 80,000 of those kids already. If they can get the list of these guys, 4 full days in office for Trump, if they can get the list of where some of those kids have been, and they've been identifying it, since the election, going after them and trying to find those little ones, what in the world was Biden's administration doing? What was Secretary of Homeland Mayorkas doing when he said to the committees on Capitol Hill, we don't know where those kids are, I'll look into it? No, dude, you obviously had a better way to find them, and you didn't do your job. I can't believe they impeached him and didn't remove him.
Turns out none of this really was that hard work after all. None of it. It's almost like if the bishops, remember, they are the largest NGO, non-government agency, organization involved in transporting the illegals all over the country. They got more money than any other group in America. What if they had said something? What if they would have insisted on something? Maybe some of these young people, children, could have been rescued earlier, years earlier. Or maybe the bishops could have checked with their Catholic charities offices all over the nation. And there are dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of them all over the nation. Maybe they could have picked up the phone and said, yo, Catholic Charities there in Idaho. Yo, Catholic Charities there in San Francisco. What about all these multiple hundreds of reports we keep hearing about all of these kids being smuggled and 400,000 of them missing? Could they have put some time and effort into uncovering the dark, evil underbelly of the illegal transportation business that they were getting rich from? Of course, they released their statement about how mean and cruel it is to deport illegals, blah, 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 blah. I've been hearing this for decades. But their moral capital is at zero to pretend that they care about kids. They do not. Not only have they done next to nothing to defend children in the womb, the bishops have also been masters at pretending they knew nothing about thousands of homosexual clerical rapes of altar boys. So they just pulled out that old playbook again, which is to say we're just going to ignore it and carry on until we get caught. Well, you got caught. Listen to the Vice President of the United States. Well, as Trump 2.0 unfolds, it's pretty certain that the social justice gravy train, many of the overweight clerics who have feasted on that for so long, is about to pull into the station, and it's time for everyone now to just get off the train. That's likely the largest cost the bishops will pay on earth, that is, the loss of federal funding. Because it's hard to imagine that money continuing to flow to their coffers when the need is no longer there. ICE is doing the transporting now, not the bishops. And there is now an on-the-record denunciation of the bishops, again, by the sitting vice president of the United States, a devout Catholic, an actual devout Catholic. So be on the lookout for a large number of layoffs soon from all these bishops' committees and all these Catholic charities. Where are you getting your money from? However, considering the cost in souls and bodies the bishops and their staffs have been party to that they've racked up, judgment from the Trump administration should not be the judgment that they're concerned with. What is it about children that the U.S. bishops seem to dislike so much? They don't fight for them to be born. They don't fight to protect them from being sexually abused, and they don't fight to protect them from being sex trafficked.